Action Surge! Hey,
No.
everybody.
No
We need to talk about
Get it away.
it. We need to talk about it. I think we need to talk about it.
You need to melt it.
Well, so here's the thing.
For those who are listening,
What we are looking at is a dice tower made of skulls and webs and twisted branches and little spiders on it, down which your dice roll like a helter-skelter and land in a beautiful landing platform with a web symbol on the bottom. And it was made for us by Mark at Crafted Campaigns, who makes all of our miniatures,
glorious.
and who was generous enough to... You've put that absolutely in no man's land. No one... I cannot get to it.
I think you've seen it.
Who made this for us. He every now and then will just make us lovely little extras, like little Hank was an extra.
Yes.
Healing potions.
Healing potions. He's a generous man. He's a good man. He's not just a friend of the show. He's an integral part of it. And he made this for us, and he has been tret with terrible discourtesy. And this has been tret with terrible discourtesy.
I don't think not from me.
And not from you.
I treat you with great respect.
To be fair to you, Ben, which
I'm
you always
very
are,
proud.
you've
Yeah.
really tret that. You've tret this like a queen.
and I think it is my queen.
I'll put it out here. I fucking hate it.
I hate it.
And
Why are you putting out there
But
for
does
the
it
first
so
time?
for those of you again who are listening who are listening and who weren't sure when you were going across Fathom, all of your checks, many of your checks were done with advantage in this, and you failed every single one. You also have had, we've used it at various points. Let's see if it's maybe just a DM thing, because I'm going to roll with it now.
It knows.
And that is 17.
Yeah, see,
so
it
it seems to, I'm going to go again. 12. It seems to hold some kind of bias for me.
Yeah.
Whereas the rest of you don't seem to be able to get out a single digis with it.
No.
Can I ask whether or not your death save against, or your save against Iago's Blood Whip was in this?
I think it might have
I think
been.
it might have been.
Also, I did roll a nat 20 with that, but that's when I hit it and it bounced off the rim.
So it
remember?
did. So you did.
Yeah.
Nat 20. I love it. I think it's so dangerous and deadly, and I love that we dislike it so much. So I will always roll major things in that because I think the
100%.
peril is high enough.
What I really like is that we
balls.
went to all this effort to create a mechanic which would add more peril to the game in the form of the deck of many friends. And it turns out, in order to just break the game, all I need to get you to do is roll in a neutral dice tower. And you're like, either you go to pieces. It is that thing that we've said so many times, like sometimes the dice have their own story to tell.
Really
And there seems to be, I would love to know whether we roll worse when we're nervous. Because
It feels like that, doesn't it?
it does feel like a sort of
feels like that.
self-fulfilling prophecy, but that's not how probability works.
Sometimes when you feel confident or you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so great, that's when the nat 20s happen.
You had a couple of really difficult rolls today. Like you had some. Stop calling them that.
Natural benties. We had a very interesting episode today. It very much feels to me like a kind of you guys. That's a sort of ep where I've got no idea how it's going to come out. To be honest, I can't tell whether that went really well or whether it didn't. Do you kind of know what I mean?
We had fun, so I think...
Well, as long as you had fun, then it's great. Because I've obviously got the kind of overarching sense of story in my head. And it's not that anyone at any point went down blind alleys. In fact, it's really nicely paced. There's lots of stuff that happens. But because I think you had quite a lot of bad rolls, you kept trying stuff and it wasn't working. And what I think our table is very good at is not letting, and of course everyone has moments when they get frustrated with bad rolls, but not really letting bad rolls
dictate
the energy of the room, because there's precious little you can do about it. And so you just got to sort of
can
go,
roll better.
that's that you should roll
should.
better.
I've just tried harder.
Yeah, try harder. Try and do better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we had some combat, we had some espionage, we had some Wildshape. We had some.
What?
We had all
We
kinds
gotta
of stuff.
get into that.
Where do we want to start? Do we want to start
I
with?
guess we start by Kelnys just calling everyone a pussy.
That's it.
You were Kel was absolutely
Feral.
It was a loose
No,
cannon.
he was
Kel has
today.
been let loose by
Feral
his
today.
revelation.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did say it in the episode. It's like, you know, you were sort of keeping a little bit of yourself back just in case you ever met your parents so that they'd be proud of you. And then you discover that they definitely were and they're glad that they had you. And so you're just like, well, I ain't got nothing to lose. They're dead. Let's go.
Yeah, it's fucking brilliant. It felt like truly like Kelnys Unchained. It It was Kelnys after dark.
It was
You know?
Kelnys after Kelnys, and things are getting gritty in Kelnys in the city.
You know when you have one of those like really chill out friends who then gets drunk that one time and suddenly just starts fights in a club.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah,
what's
you were
happening to
starting fights in a
Callum?
club today.
And it's like it felt like that, which was like you were jonesing for a fight.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, come
I was like,
on.
yeah, let's do it.
Nut
I was
someone.
my plan at the beginning was to just kind of obviously I kind of feel like I forced it. Is just to kind of like see what happens. Like let's get swept up in the tide, let the story happen. But I think Kel wanted a fight, so it was like you pussy, and then off we go. You know?
See,
And himself turned into a giant one later.
Because he did turn into a giant pussy. I think my my plan for you guys would have, if I was at the table, I would have tried to have done one of two things, and you did neither of them. You did a halfway house between both. Either I would have laid in wait, everyone hides, you all attack, and you try and take a prisoner and figure out what the hell you can find out, or you all pretend to be Gloam and all go to the camp. And you sort of, half of you hid, half of you didn't, and then we had a sort of, I think that is the longest we've ever gone with a split party.
Yeah.
You were an
Yeah.
entirely split party for almost all of the episode. And that's quite fun, because I think then as a DM what I'm doing is like listening for good cinematic cliffhanger lines of dialogue to switch
Yeah.
in a way that seems like good moments. To go into the to dive headfirst into the pussy. What was your
As we all love that.
you know that common phrase?
Don't hold back.
What was Kel's thinking? Was Kel thinking, I want a fight because I don't want these people to go back and say they've seen us? Like, why did Kel... I guess it all came out of that thing where you were trying to whisper to one another, right? And make plans.
Yeah.
And it's really tough to know... Sometimes as a DM, like I want you guys to be able to communicate and make plans, but also when you've got someone stood on the other side, it's very hard to facilitate
I kind of knew that was going to be a problem, and I didn't care because I think Kel was thinking this is bad. If we go to that camp, we are actually going. They're going to find us. They're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then there'll be too many of them. We'll be on their turf. They're going to wipe us out. Not that you would let that happen, Harry, but you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, if you roll bad enough, that was that part of the interesting thing is, of course. It's that thing of I know behind the screen where everyone is.
Yeah.
So essentially, there are specific numbers. I'm really pleased I did this actually because it took any ambiguity out of it for me. I have specific numbers of people in different areas. So I knew exactly how many there were in the camp. And I knew that if you can fight your way out of that camp. It's really difficult, especially with the group that you journey there with. I mean, I think you would have ended up with... there was 10 in the camp, and there were 5 with you. So there would have been 15 of them.
And there's certainly no
15 against
explosives.
5.
No explosives. But, 15 people is a lot of people for you to fight.
Yeah.
It's not like the Gloam were back at House Grenwyr. These are tougher Gloam, as we saw when they attacked Raidion. But it's just about doable. But, of course, as soon as I've said to you there are about 20, you've now seen another group, there is about 21. You're kind of going, oh... But of course, you're assuming that they're all going to be in the same place, and I'm kind of going, they could probably go to the camp, but you're working with limited information, and so Kel at that point is going, we can't go into the camp, right? So if we're gonna get into conflict, let's do it on our own terms in a sort of arena of battle that we choose, and this time now felt like that felt like a good time to try and do it.
I don't think he was trying to do it though. I was thinking, I don't want to go to the camp. I don't know how we don't do that. But so Kel was literally just trying to say to Raidion, we can't go to the camp.
Yeah.
We shouldn't go to the camp. But then he was overheard, and then the dude was all shaky and weird.
Yeah.
And I feel like Kelnys has changed, or not changed. A part of him has emerged that perhaps was hidden for a long time since the Sanctum. We joke about it. His biological parents we now know are no longer alive.
Yeah.
He didn't even know if they were alive or dead.
Yeah.
But now he knows, and his real family is dead, or his adoptive family.
Yeah.
So he has no one, as
Yeah.
far as he knows, except Yilda
And except this gang.
and this gang.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's a certain part of him that is bent on getting more knowledge and taking some revenge along the way, and a little bit of fuck it.
A bit of nihilism.
A bit of nihilism is what I was going to say.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
It's a bit of nihilism,
A bit nihilist. He's like,
And I think this is the sort of stuff where, I knew I wanted to end on the moment that we ended on, and we'll get to that. But I am very, I think, there's various new dynamics emerging. There's a much more cautious Elwyn emerging, who's kind of at times almost going, no, just stand still. Just stand still.
She's got a lot more to lose than she had previously.
Yes, and then there's a more reckless Kelnys, and I think, there are always opportunities to sit and have conversations as the characters and be like, look, things are changing, but X needs to. Here's where I'm at. Here's where my head's at. Here's where my head's at. But yeah, it is. I guess I didn't really. Because it would be incredibly didactic of me to be like, and I will give Kel this information, it will change him in this way. My job is to just give you the information, to just show you how you came to be. And then however you choose to react to it is how you choose to react to it. And I think the Gloam, what I'm really trying to create with the Gloam here is this sense that I haven't actually been writing it with this in mind, and it's just come to me now, and it's obviously a massive, massive, massive oversimplification. But have you ever read anything about Stalingrad? Like the Battle of Stalingrad, where it's winter and it's cold and everything is frightening and everything is hostile and they don't know when anyone else is going to be there and they're running out of stuff and they're really frightened. And to me, that's almost what the Gloam are here. They've been sent to kind of the worst place on Earth. And they don't know who their enemy is. And they don't know what they're fighting, and they'll be walking somewhere, and suddenly bits of the ground start attacking them. And they're just so you going in and being like, pussy, they're on such a knife edge all the time. They're so it's so febrile for that, it's everything's so close to the surface all the time.
It's like if Stalingrad met Vietnam. Do you know what I mean? That feeling of you just did suddenly something
it's like for something coming out of a foxhole and you're like, Jesus, I thought we were safe. And you're not, all the time.
But also, this is the kind of thing they want, right? You think you've joined this organisation because you don't, the virtuous have lied to you. So you're essentially following whatever else has presented itself because that seems like a better option. And now you're in a blighted, destitute old home of the gods, and now creatures that don't even belong in Reliquia are coming after you. You go, what have I done?
And into the fire, basically.
Yeah.
There was a version of this campaign where you started in Alvelion. I really, really toyed with it. I really liked, originally I quite liked the idea, back in session 1, of you starting in Alvelion. And Alvelion would not yet be blighted. It would still be crumbling, and there would be for me, the things that are in Alvelion at the moment, without letting you too much behind the screen and into everything I'm planning, there was a huge amount of magic that was used to create this city and to maintain it. And then when the gods left, that magic disappeared. But in my head, there's still kind of magic in the mortar, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? There's still something of the divine in the actual structure because it was brought to fruition by their power. And you then add the Gloam into that, and it's just this sort of weird cocktail of magical stuff. It's kind of blight, kind of gods, so everything is I don't get a chance to play that often because of the very rigid structure I've set with there are certain races and there are certain things. I don't get to do monstrosities and big kind of weird creature. And so this is somewhere where I can kind of do that. And had we started in episode 1 here and you were level 1, those things that you would have been fighting would have been very, very different. There's no blight. It might have been a couple of little, an animated this, as if a block, I don't know, a flippin' statue has come to life and it's kind of weird and it's lurching towards you and it's probably challenge rating 1 and you go oh my gosh, this is dangerous. And then Morgan's it's time for us to go up the mountain. And that was kind of how I was going to start. And I'm really, really glad I didn't because I think blighted Alvelion is so much more interesting a place than non-blighted Alvelion.
Osgiliath vibes.
Yeah! I mean, I'm never far from a Tolkien reference anyway,
I was
really.
very much
but
getting Osgiliath vibes.
Yeah, and it is, it's Osgiliath is a really good reference. I'm going to see if I can find them. Doug Cockle and I were in BAFTA, and we started talking to Andy Farrant. And Andy was planning his Deadlands campaign for Oxventure, and he was going through his... We were comparing Google Docs, because I was writing Reliquiae, and he uses pictures. And I was like, oh, that's so brilliant. I have not done that. I have not done that at any point. So what I might do is I might bring up my Alvelian Pinterest, and I can show you.
Got a little midboard.
But anyway, sorry, I've now...
Save it for behind the DM screen in like a year's time when we go that far.
But yeah, so we've got this like new version. We have got this kind of new version of Kel at the moment, and like new dynamics.
Is it like, do you think, I mean, is he just kind of railing against all of these revelations at the minute? Is he feeling a bit like angry, like lost, like...
I haven't decided yet. He's kind of evolving. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I feel very much like Kelnys is just becoming what he is. I don't have any plans for him. I didn't like come in today and go, he's going to be a loose cannon.
Yeah.
He just kind of did it.
I'm going to vibe it out.
And then afterwards I go, wow, that was interesting.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
This is my image of kind of how the walkway is.
Oh, that's
nice.
cool.
And in fact, just the walkway itself. Don't think too much about the rest of it. And then the rest of Alvelian is very. I mean, this is not great for people who are listening. You might have to go and have a watch. But it's sort of these kind of things, but sort of a bit more blighty and this kind of stuff.
Derelict.
Kind of derelict, very derelict.
Very derelict.
Very Souls-like.
Yes,
It is, yeah.
yes, it is. It
Very
is Souls-like.
Souls-like.
It is quite Souls-like.
Ring-like.
You're very well.
So
Allow us to investigate the ring.
It's kind of
How
a
much
wrecked
do you-
ring there.
It's a wrecked ring.
Knowing where it would go,
Yeah.
how much do you now regret calling them rings?
I don't mind, I think.
don't.
I actually think sometimes it kind of needs it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like when I had a thing in my home campaign which I meant to be really, really serious.
The anuses of...
Where and actually it was to do with a different version of the Sanctum, because the Sanctum is a sort of location that I had in a home setting, and then I've completely adapted and changed for this. And that had a sort of magical barrier, like a wind wall around it. And you had to be able to do something to get through that wind wall, and I referred to it accidentally entirely as passing wind, like as in passing the wind. And it kind of wrecked a really serious moment, but actually sometimes those moments of
Feedback.
accidental levity.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it, I ummed and ahed about this in the library all of yesterday as I was writing this. And I was thinking about, I really try to keep the names of, I try to think a lot about like the names of structures and the names of things, rock justice aside. So for example, it being chapters of the web, to me that feels, I mean, I could have called them threads of the web, but I quite like the idea that they are chapters. It kind of feels like, and I was thinking about, and we have like the Legion, Fortis Legion, and you'd assume they'd have like battalions and companies. They feel much more military sounding. And then I'm kind of thinking about what have I got, and like units didn't feel right, like regiments, platoons. These people aren't soldiers, they're teachers, they're whatever they used to be before, and now they've taken a different path. And so actually just like a ring, it also kind of has these slightly, like it has like it doesn't have great connotations. It feels nefarious. It feels like it's happening in the dark and revolutionary. Like maybe blocks. I could have gone for blocks.
I love ring because it implies, obviously it implies a circle.
Yeah.
And there's socially a circle is
Closed off.
Like circle.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it does work. It's we're just not mature enough to handle it.
Alex,
It comes down to-
Alex was the first the first bolt that went on the hull of the
You
Titanic.
present me with a ring. Also, if it's good enough for Tolkien to centre his entire thing about the one ring.
One ring.
You know,
Yeah.
like, come on.
the fact that one ring is 20 people, because that's kind of what they mentioned.
Yeah.
Like, and there's
But
obviously
also,
loads of them.
he said, or until we're relieved by a larger force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how big can they go with their ring?
How big does the ring go?
How much can
The ring is wide.
Yeah, how much can you fit in one ring?
Depends on how much you put into it.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow.
But we had some fun combat, and we're getting some new spells. We had new spells today.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about Dimension Door.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Did you didn't know that was 'cause
No.
clearly not.
I didn't know you were
Like,
stuck in
how are
that,
they going
no.
to get out of there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to. Well, I thought you had gained some teleport spell, which is basically what it is.
Yeah.
essentially.
But it's like
I
pretty
hadn't
extreme,
thought about
right?
Dimension
It's-
Door.
Is it the most extreme that you can do in distance?
No, there is a teleport
Gate.
spell.
Okay.
There's and gate is
And gate,
massive.
yeah.
Like
Okay.
it's like Misty Step is 15 feet, and then Misty Step is like
I've got 30.
Misty Step is 30 feet.
Yeah.
Uh,
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't getting that.
no, you're right. I'm sure you're right. Misty Step's 30 feet, and then you get
And Dimension Door is 500.
yeah. And Dimension Door, multiple people can go through it, right?
Two.
How? Two?
Yeah,
Is it just
two,
two? And
just
plus one for every. Can you upcast it?
Good question.
And then so gate.
I don't think so.
And then Gate is like an 8th level spell. Gate is a super high level
Right.
spell.
Shall I read what Dimension Door is?
Yeah, and then I'll bring up Gate. It's like like that same thing of like disguise self,
So yeah.
alter self, seeming.
You teleport to a location within range, you arrive at exactly the spot desired. It can be a place you can see, one you can visualize, or one you can describe by stating distance and direction, such as 200 feet straight upwards, or 300 feet to the northwest, or, at a 45-degree angle. So, in theory, I can make our way upwards through buildings or down through the ground. But it's pretty dangerous because, so you can teleport one willing creature. The creature must be within 5 feet of you when you teleport, and it teleports to a space within 5 feet of your destination space. But if you or the other creature, or both, would arrive in a space occupied by a creature or completely filled by one or more objects, you and any creature traveling with you each take 4d6 force damage, and the teleportation fails.
Yeah.
You
So
were
we
just
just
going
You
to a
try-
wall,
go
for
into,
example.
We're going to rock.
Question.
Yeah.
Would you take your momentum with you?
No.
So you.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean? Because if you're
if you, like,
stepping, in
ran
theory, your
forward.
momentum is getting you through, and your momentum carries there. But let's say like something was falling, you dimension door.
You can definitely do. Like, there's a thing that people do where they'll be like, "I'm going to dimension door behind the person, push them in. Like, I'm going to hold on to someone and put a dimension door 500 feet up in the
Yeah.
air and try and push them through it, so they take 500 feet falling damage.
Yeah, but
Like,
it doesn't say
that's,
willing person.
that's possible.
But in theory, like if someone was falling and you did a dimension door and you did it like this way up, would they kind of step through it, or would them? I'm surely the momentum would kind of like
Yeah,
propel
probably.
them
I mean-
forward,
Playing Portal at this point.
Yeah,
yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, it is essentially.
Because I feel like that.
Speedy thing
It's
goes
super-
in,
makes
speedy
more
thing
sense.
comes out.
It's useful, but it also means there's risk still
Yeah.
involved in things like that. Do you know what I mean? Like to my mind.
And then Gate is a 9th level spell, and Gate is you create a portal linking an unoccupied space you can see to a precise location on a different plane of existence. So you could
You could
go wherever you wanted.
One day we could have a water park day and we find a big lake and we all stand on like a cliffside and you dimension door and then here and you like your momentum and it out into the like a big old
That's the dream.
Yep.
Water park day! Why are we doing it?
And
That's
can you
what all of
upcast
this
it?
No.
No, so you can never do it with more than 2 people. So it's highly situational.
willing
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
willing people.
That's right.
Oh,
So that's
in
when you're,
in
like,
that case
putting
you
an enemy
can't.
through it,
You
you
can't.
can't.
You can't push an enemy through it.
Yeah.
Always.
And then so we had. That's the first time you've ever really spoken to a member of the Gloam
Yeah.
about what led them to the Gloam.
It's the first time we've successfully spoken to a member of the Gloam.
You didn't speak, but even the dwarf who you killed, you didn't speak to her about her motivations.
No.
You asked her
No.
about what she was doing.
Yeah, as soon as we've tried it, they've just been so closed off. Like you just
They're quite difficult to talk to, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little bit stressful, like, anytime we've gotten near them, because they're so cagey. You're like...
It's the Goths, right? It's the
Yeah.
Goths at school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's like...
They're probably great. There's a lot of them that are actually probably great, but they're really tough to get talking to sometimes at school.
Tough nuts to
Yeah.
a lot of it,
Tough
they
nut
all
to crack.
assume that you obviously all know the same thing. So if you're going in there asking questions, it's like, well, you should know this.
Yeah,
This is
and that happened a few
straight
times.
away.
You just kept rolling. You kept
was
rolling
good.
well, and then when you rolled badly, you were able to recover. Do you know what I mean? It was like
Barely, though. Like,
Yeah.
I have a
You
plus
had a-
10 to persuasion and deception, and I was rolling like 3.
Yeah, but that's how bad you were rolling.
Then you got
Wild.
advantage with the help action, and it just went up by 1.
So bad.
yeah.
But yeah, that was my intention. Was like I think it's one of these episodes where I wasn't looking for like the key to a place or whatever. I was just looking to find something that would enlighten us a little bit, because I think the Gloam have been something that's really misunderstood. We fought them, we killed them, we've killed so many of them. But I kind of like the fact that they're kind of teachers, and I thought their motivations were interesting. That it was kind of they were disenfranchised as opposed to empowered, which I thought was interesting. It was like it was let down by the gods as opposed, and it's in that kind of sadness and nihilism that they've been picked up, as opposed to they've been inspired by something else.
Well, it's almost like a betrayal, isn't it?
That's obviously
kind of what's leading
and it's obviously this very particular.
Obviously, this
person's-
guy, like, because with all this stuff, I'm really, really trying. I just think it's so much more fun if no institution or faction is
It's
a
fully
monolith.
evil.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you will have met people in the web, Medea, who just loves killing people, and Medea like is killing people to watch them die. She's
Yeah.
fascinated as to why they
Grand
die.
time.
But then there's Casper, who
And then there's Casper,
wasn't
and
like...
and also like Kel and I. Like, you're not looking to, you weren't particularly going in there trying to kill anybody. And in the same way, when you first, I tried to nod to this all the way back in episode 4, when you were going through the forest and you heard one of them say, "I want to bleed that
Oh, that's
council."
right.
Yeah.
And one of them was going, I want to bleed.
Chill out, mate.
Yeah, and the other one was going,
Yeah.
and the other's going, well, they're just as blind as we were. Like,
Yeah.
I don't harbour any particular, because you are going to get ardent zealots who are just about.
Well, that's who
you know,
founded it, right?
yeah.
Like no person who's not quite sure they're feeling is forming a cult like this.
Well, unless
Got
they
to
think
be those
unless they think they
people.
can win. I mean, that's the other thing, is that they've got to think they can win,
Yeah,
and they've
yeah.
got to think that they're gonna. Because for you to be recruiting teachers, and I mean, not that all, no, the teachers are a monolith, but there's got to be a.
learned people.
Yeah, they're not just being swept up in the momentum of it, some of these people, because also those people wouldn't be that useful as leaders.
Yeah.
You'll probably find more reason. You'll find Segovax, or you'll find that guy.
Yeah.
You'll find just like, I will burn the world if I'm told to burn the world, and then you'll find people going, look, I mean, we
Yeah.
were lied to. We were told nothing existed beyond the mountains. Now we're finding out it does. And there were people who told us that and were like, you watch, this will be true. And it was. And if we've been taught they're evil,
But
How do
actually,
we
it's
know
kind of
they're
It's
evil?
kind of a
Yeah.
fair reaction,
yeah,
really.
yeah. And that's which I think is really important
It's
to
like
try and.
politics all over the world
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
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 It's always interesting to me as well when it's because it inevitably ends up being Raidion and Dolly that end up in these situations, and the way they go about gathering information is quite different.
So you're very Raiden's very emotional, like really
Yeah.
tries to appeal on an emotional level, whereas Dolly, I think,
Well, she obviously comes from a background where information gathering is what she does, but she's always gone about it. It's almost like you almost have to will the other person to tell you stuff. She's not in a line of aggressively interrogating someone.
It's more of a charm offensive.
It is, but in a situation like that, it's harder because people are already on the back foot with you. So like, she's just like it's more of a wheedling kind of like circle around, and also pay attention and like sort of wait for an opportune moment. Whereas you're like, right, let's fucking find out.
Yeah.
What, you know?
it feels like Raidion asks questions as if the answers are important. And appeals on an emotional level to be like, look, we need to know this.
Yeah,
Whereas
I'm waiting for
whereas
a
Dolly's kind of trying to
tasty bit of
make it
information.
sound as unimportant as possible. It's kind of in a crudest binary. It
Yeah.
feels like Dolly's just kind of going. I'm going to ask him more about that, and then go round the
She's always
houses and
writing
round the
down,
houses.
Like she's like of taking down the information almost like to sort through later and find out what's valuable, like, and what might actually benefit later, rather than being like interrogatory. Let's find out what you know and get straight to the point with it.
And it felt like there was more group cohesion in your little pair than there was in the three that ended up staying.
But I like that though, because it was like it was all born out of worry for the others, and it was like we have to keep people safe, and like whereas I was like, he wants to get involved and he wants to be as helpful as possible, but Ellen was like, no, you have to trust other people that they're going to be all right. Like, and that was an interesting.
It's hard to sit and wait as well when you know stuff.
And also as a
going
player,
down.
and also I
Yeah.
think there is a level as well. As a player, you don't want to sit. And
Yeah.
and that's why I think it's worth. I mean, you can do what you like, but it's worth like having those conversations around a campfire of being like, that trust is about trusting Dolly that they have a way out, but also trusting that you have the resources and the skills to adapt on the fly. I think that's kind of the new negotiation that's happening within the group as well. It's like that. Ironically, it's like that kind of improvisational thing. You know, it's like how willing are people to sort of almost yes and an idea. But yeah, that was like the panther. Because for me, I was like, oh, amazing. He's turned it. It was such a cool moment with that nat 20. Such a cool moment. I was like, oh, he'll turn into like, I don't know.
A moth.
Like a spider.
A bird. Yeah, I thought it was going to be a bird, genuinely.
And then they'll just can't have a fly speed.
Yeah.
Or like a lizard. And you'll be like, oh, cool. We looked over and there was a lizard that must have just gone over something. And then all the heat's off you because they're not going to be like, quick, a lizard! But that wasn't the choice you made.
It's one of the great choices.
It was brilliant.
I loved it.
More singing all dancing panther.
I want to hear about it.
He may as well have been dancing.
There was an idea I had that the panther would actually charge them to create a distraction, and then kind of like I did, lead them off somehow. But no, I pounced on Elwyn instead.
I don't know what to do with that. That's wild. What a wild idea. I'm totally hidden. Like, I'm fine. I passed my stealth check.
Getting away with possession.
Yeah.
Also, I love the idea of like, go with it. And go with what? Oh, Jesus! Fenton!
Yeah, it was quite Fenton, actually.
Oh, God! Oh,
Fenton!
I think that was the thing. I think if Elwyn had failed her check, it was actually a really good idea to be like, pretend I'm killing you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
If we've both been stood there like, guess we've been seen. Quick,
but
do
that
something.
That wasn't quite how it happened. And also, I guess it's in those moments it's kind of interesting because it's how much do I metagame as a DM? Like, these are 4 heavily armed people who have probably fought and encountered multiple things, some of which are big and frightening. Are they going to run from one panther? Like, how much do they understand their relative? If you put it into the middle of a market on market day, everyone starts running for sure. But against these guys,
I mean, they've just seen the giant tree thing. They're going to be like, thank God it's not a giant tree thing.
I think I'm not sure even if it had gone exactly as you were hoping with your intimidation check. And I love a 20 to a 1, almost as much as I love a 1 to a 20.
Beautiful.
But I think probably they would have just, if you charge at them, they probably would have just killed.
Well, they would try.
They would.
they would.
I mean, with
They
all
would
of
have,
this,
yeah,
I
they
guess
would
it's
have-
contingent on dice.
What is the movement speed of the panther?
40 feet? If they're quite
Something
quick,
like
I
that, yeah.
think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not you and your booties,
No.
but like, it's better than me.
I didn't
Like
write
90
down.
or something crazy.
No, it's not that far.
Also, I just...
I think it's like 30 feet.
50 feet speed and a 40-foot climb speed.
It's pretty fast.
It is pretty fast.
Well, yeah, you're only 60 with your boots.
They're really cool. They can pounce 20 feet and knock people prone.
Yeah.
You can, yeah.
This wild... this wild Kel episode, going back to that moment with the initial interaction with the Gloam, and when I opened fire, and people were like, "Oh, what?" Because I didn't hear any of it. And in that moment, what I saw was Kel say something, and the guy go like that, and I would be thinking, well, Kel's not going to do something like call him a person.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking Kel would just be totally reasonable right now.
Oh my god, they figured out Kel. Oh my god, they figured out it's Kel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll be very reasonable, and so that then like it does lead to like moments where it just like boom, 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 and it can spiral and like
Yeah. Because also, the thing that I find quite tricky about Gloam encounters, one of the trickiest things is your insight checks are really difficult because everyone's wearing masks.
Yeah.
And I keep going to describe people's facial expressions because that's kind of part of the descriptive sort of storytelling nature of D&D. I can't describe people's hair. I can't describe
Their
skin. I can't even tell you what species they are particularly.
It makes it even cooler when Raidion said something and you're like, and he just turns and his eyes bore in and you're like, well, we're imagining it, and the only thing you can see
Are the eyes.
are the eyes. So then visually in your head, when you're imagining it, it's like it just makes it all the more intense as well.
Oh, good, because it is like I'm aware. I mean, the amount of times I've said "pick your way through" as a verb for to walk across the rubble.
No, it's good.
Oh God, you know when you can feel yourself.
Yeah.
Do you ever get this when you
Yeah,
can feel
yeah,
yourself
where you-
relying on like the?
We've got it. There's rubble.
Yeah, there's rubble, and it's like
It's not easy to walk on.
Do you know what I like to imagine in that moment as they're all walking through? It's that moment on the mountain in Lord of the
Legolas
Rings,
on top
where
of the
Legolas,
snow.
so I just kind of walking on top because he's such a little boy and on the snow, and everyone else just like sunk in the snow. Like, that's kind of my picture.
Parvis with the periscope.
Yeah.
It's very weird having a DMPC again. Like, we haven't had it for such a long time. I haven't had it since Morgan.
Yeah.
And I don't particularly enjoy it, but there's no, like...
He wasn't like, but I mean, he kind of hangs back.
He totally does, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
And that's
that-
right for the character as well.
Yeah, and I think it's very hard to have... If I was going to put someone who was going to take that... I mean, originally, I thought Morgan was going to die on the bloody... on the slopes. So Morgan being in control was like, great, Morgan can be in control because he can kind of keep these newest players on a sense of like, this is what you do, like...
He was a
go along
great
this
sort
way.
of tutorial, wasn't he?
Yeah,
For,
he
like-
is.
Yeah, he was.
He's a
Yeah.
tutorial, and then he's meant to die,
And then instead he was there until episode 4.
Yeah, and then didn't die till episode 13.
And then Dolly essentially wore his skin.
yeah.
Dude, yeah.
What a way to go.
But it's tricky because you can't really have a big personality as a DMPC. It's no fun for the party. Like even there, it's so suboptimal mechanically but he's got a +9 to survival. But I'd rather you guys rolled. You know, I'd rather you guys rolled. But it is, it's just a ball that I'm not used to keeping in the ring.
And
You've
it's
got
another
to
thing.
think about as well.
Yeah, it's another,
Particularly on
it's
eps
another
like that.
ball to juggle.
Exactly, particularly on eps like that, where I think I have 7 or 8 maps for this episode alone.
Yeah, if you didn't know where we were going.
Because I don't know where you're going.
Yeah.
And so I have like overview. I have an overview of the city. I have specific like buildings. I have the camp built. I obviously have like the like where you're heading for. I have the virtuous hall. I have the caves themselves. When you know what I mean. Like I have all these bits and bobs, and you're sort of going, right, okay. It feels a little bit like this is such a niche thing. You know the restaurant Walk to Walk?
I love it.
Right?
Love
So
watching
Walk to Walk, for those of you who aren't from the UK, is like a noodle or rice bar where you can stand at the counter and you're like, can you put 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 different things? Almost like Subway, but with rice and noodles.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit like those guys. Like you've got all your stuff laid out in front of you, but like, I ain't got a clue what I'm making today. And it's just entirely based on...
And neither do we.
Yeah, and neither do you. And neither do you.
We didn't have any idea. I think it was one of those episodes where it was like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah, the kind of we haven't had free reign like this truly in a while.
Yeah.
Like we've always sort of been like, no, we do know where we're going. What happens, how we get there, but we know that by the end of this episode, we're really going to be going towards
It's always
point
a little
B.
scary as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think this isn't quite that same thing when you're going to, because this is like a dead city, but when you go to a living city, they are the best and worst episodes, I think, as players. Like the best because you're like, once you actually figure out what you want to do, they're so rewarding because you're like, there wasn't even a trail of breadcrumbs. We just figured it out. But then at the beginning, you're like, it's a little bit like like standing in front of a sheer wall and someone being like, up you climb, puppies. And you're like, I don't know where to start or how to do this.
Yeah.
And we ended on a particular moment.
Yeah.
I've had those bloody sending stones. I've asked you about them a couple of times to make sure you've still got them.
But I was like, I'm not getting rid of them. It's too good.
Yeah.
It's too interesting.
More on that story later,
It's
I guess.
interesting that you let us hear that one.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I think maybe I should have written it out with my lovely new calligraphy set.
But it's it's hair.
You're hearing it in your head, and I think it's quite nice for the.
Do you want to remind us what it said?
Oh yeah, it said, and I had to do it. I had to word count it because you're only allowed 25 words. Let me.
It's like a tweet.
It's a tweet, yeah. I do apologise. I closed my thing down, so when I showed you the Pinterest, no one could see my email address. So I now have to bring this back up. It said.
Well, I can't say anything about it, but did anyone? What did you?
Yeah, you can hypothesize. It said. Oh no, that is episode 22. God, we've been playing for a long time. There's a lot of stuff.
It's one of us, isn't it?
Poor Dahlia, sweet little fly, you exchange one web for another. Ask your former quarry what happened to his parents. See how he weaves and dissembles.
Like, former quarry, like, they wanted the sound of the tree speaker, like, there's that in there. Like, was Dolly initially sent there to this chapter for one of us, and then things changed, or...
I mean, I'd wager Dolly is being teased. That's not a particularly a thinly veiled threat.
You said to me before we talk about this top.
I know.
You saying to me. So Eva said to me, "I've got a top. I want to show you this top. It's very webby. Is that a bad episode in which to do it?" And I knew that was kind of
Where you wanted to end.
Where I wanted to end. I wouldn't have dragged us like another hour just to get there, but I was like, ooh. That could work really, really nicely. I was like, it's not it wouldn't be a terrible episode for you to wear it on. But yeah, it's trying to, again, just keep, like, for a while, the focus has been the Fortis Legion. And so I think, story-wise, I almost need to, like, reassert that the Fortis Legion is still relevant, but the Fortis Legion is a much more contained group. The Web and the Glo. The Web and the Gloam are the ones that...
That was going to be my excuse. I was going to say that we were members of the web.
I nearly had him...
As an ex-member of the web.
No, I understand what you were saying when you were saying... Because you alluded to being the web. Yeah. And I think he would know what the web was. Yeah. But I think there is a level to which that guy, who does have a name... that named
Teacher
man,
guy.
He's called
Rockjustice.
Yeah, there as well. His initials are RJ.
RJ
Could be Justice Rock.
He could be.
Justice Rock.
But he pronounces it Justice.
Rakoche.
Justice Road.
I was interested to see what he said to that, and it didn't really give much away because I wanted to have a better understanding of how closely linked kind of the Gloam, the web,
because also you've got no idea how high up this guy is. I mean, this guy could be a bit of a shit kicker. In the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, or whatever it is, in the land of the blind. Otherwise, there's already a king. Or he could be like an actual kind of general who they've trusted this great mission to. You've got no idea because you don't understand the structure.
A part of me really wanted to. So, I think of things in... like, what would be a really interesting narrative choice as opposed to what would be a genuinely safe choice? And so I was like, well, wouldn't it be fun to learn his name so that when we leave at some point, we'll get to face him again? And it's maybe that'll happen again, but I think that there's this, he was speaking in these very particular binary, good or right or wrong, and he was existing in what is good and what is bad. And I always think that Raidion is very interested in the binary and the choices and actually the greyness of everything and what's right and what's wrong. And I know that, like, the Gloam isn't a monolith. So me going in and being like, as soon as it passed that we were the Baroon chapter, we were the secret chapter, we could say whatever we wanted because it was like, we have an important mission just as you do. And I quite like just the deception of it. It's really fun to go in and say, you don't need to know what we do because we're just as important as you are. And it's, I think it kind of gave us an in to kind of be a bit sneaky about it. And part of that we did end up using in the end was going to be, we were at Mouse. We were a chapter who basically got...
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I wanted one of you so badly to ask about Mouse, just to see if we could find out anything, because we've left it...
Or Moss, as I called it
Moss,
in the recap.
yeah.
I had a nightmare in the recap. I've never had such a bad... I couldn't read.
I wanted it to be that we were survivors of Mouse, and we were sent on this mission in order to avenge what had happened at Mouse, and that's why we were there. That was going to be the... If they did ask us, that was going to be the story that I came up with. But it was an interesting thing that also we could be ex-members of the web who basically were told that we were still members of the web, but we were working with the Gloam.
Like you assume Morgan was.
Yeah. So there are so many different levels to it.
Because you were told that our interests now align with theirs is the message. Deliver the supplies to the Gloam, our interests now align with theirs is what you were told.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as well because actually the way this fella sees things is actually much closer to how Raidion sees them. And it was very interesting that you were like, there is no such thing as good and bad. You know, you're speaking of binaries, because I think he probably has to do that most of the time because he's not having these kind of conversations very often. And so, you know, to justify your actions, you come up with a simplified philosophy, which is a kind of disposable version of it. And then someone's like, no, let's really dig into it. And he's like, oh, yeah, with pleasure.
Yeah.
Actually, that, yes.
Also, like, this person's a teacher. You know, he clearly has
It's like,
a high intellect.
let's hypothesize,
Yeah, let's go and let's talk about it.
I wanted you to find explosives.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was such a fun idea. I really like that.
Imagine just lighting a fuse and then dimension dooring out. Like,
Because that would have been, like, I was thinking about it and I was like, that's perfectly reasonable. They are being told to
Find caves.
find caves.
I'm
And,
so
they've
surprised you
got
didn't set
certain-
maps on fire on the way out.
Yeah, I
That's
wondered
the only thing
if you
I
were
thought
going to
gonna
do that.
was
I
either
wondered
going
if
to
you were going
grab
to
the
destroy the
maps
maps.
and dimension door out, or set fire to them and dimension door out, just so that they're like, well, they don't know where they're looking if
Do
they've
you
got a
know
map.
why? Do you know, sounds really weird, is I actually think that Raidion quite liked the guy.
Yeah, I think
And
Oh,
actually,
100%.
I think he quite liked you, actually.
yeah, and I think that relationship of like, we've all done shit. We've all done horrible stuff, and he's doing it for those particular reasons. And it's like, I don't judge you for who I'm judging the person directly in front of me.
Yeah.
And actually, I think they had quite a decent thing. Otherwise, he would have killed him.
Yeah.
He would have like stabbed him and left. Or part of me was like, if I didn't bend narratively. If I didn't know that you were in trouble a little bit, I probably would have made Raidion stay the night and sleep and then kill him in his sleep and leave. So like, it would have been a different whole other thing. I'd be like, no, let's stay the night, I've got a plan, and like sneak around and do some stuff. But it's like, I think that the episode, like again, I think about this thing sometimes as like, what's more interesting for the episode? And that's why I make weird choices sometimes under the guise of Raidion, because I just think, oh, let's put him in danger. I don't mind him being at 6 HP, because like, if he's got 6 HP or 20 HP, he's going to get hit and he's going to go down regardless. So you may as well just like plunge yourself into danger a little bit and use that narratively as a choice.
Yeah.
That's just my thinking about it. Is like, when I was doing this TV show, I was on 3 series of this television show, and I asked the writer, will my character ever be happy? He went, no, because drama isn't born out of happiness. And so I kind of see that going forward of like, actually, we've got to just place ourselves in danger all the time. If we're succeeding in combat all the time or we're doing well, there is kind of no peril or stakes. And I'm like, so sometimes you've got to raise the stakes.
Alex Turner hasn't written a good song since he's been happy, you know? It's like,
Damien Rice hasn't released an album since
It's not always, that theory is not always right at all.
9, sorry, since
But I think it can make for some interesting stuff.
100%.
You know?
100%. I really enjoyed the conversation with Parvis.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoyed the conversation with Parvis and starting to understand how I think when we talk about like how much of characters change and how are they changing, and I think that actually I doesn't change, but his reasons do.
He does the same thing, but with different motivations.
Exactly. It's his understanding of a situation changes rather than, and like his understanding and outlook changes rather than what he's doing.
But that is change.
It is changed, but I mean, like when we talk about
The results are the same.
results are the same,
but the
and to the
inspiration
outside it might
behind
look
is-
the same, but the undercurrent of it is different. So the river is still on the same course.
When we're kids, we wash every day because we're told to. When we get teenagers, we wash every day because we've realised we smell. Yeah?
Do we?
That's what we mean, right?
And
That's what you
because
mean.
we
You're still
want-
washing every day.
And because we want to smell nice for those people who we want to find us attractive.
Exactly.
There you go.
But we're still just washing every day. I think that's a superb analogy, and I think it's been.
I like
been-
it.
It's
We can
pearls
take one
before
thing
swine.
away.
Infallible.
One thing from this episode is that
Yeah.
Yeah,
please.
yeah, take it with you.
Please.
Yeah,
wash.
Should we roll some polies?
let's.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about my favourite part of this episode. It was the panther. I just couldn't believe it was happening. I was in the best and most Doug way possible. I was just
10.
utterly delighted and baffled by it. So that felt good. That felt real good. And then actually, I also really enjoyed having the opportunity for someone from the Glo, for you to talk to someone from the Gloam and to understand why they were doing what they're doing. I think it makes them a more vivid and interesting and alive group of antagonists, which I think, broadly speaking, they still are. Right.
I haven't done this one. I don't even.
Haven't even written. He's just looking at the dice.
Staring at it. When you get the 0 on the 100, you add it to the 10.
Yeah,
right?
but I need to know what does the 10 say?
Oh, it's 5.
So it's 5 in total.
Boo.
Oh.
So you need to get the 0 on the 10 and the 0 on the 100 for it to be a 100. If you get the 0 on the 100 and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's all you score. 1, 2, 3, 4.
They'll want to know that in the Discord. They've been talking about this recently in the Discord, actually.
That's how a percentile die works. So, shall we start, or is Ben just didn't start until so late? Let's start at the other end of the table with Aoife Wilson, who's disappointed in herself.
35.
35.
I'm going to offer you this once. Do you want to re-roll your roly-poly in the Tower of Doom?
No!
Do it.
This is an opportunity to
Don't
take
give in. Don't give in.
Do it.
Don't
Do
give
it.
in.
Do it.
Rehabilitate
Break
yourself.
it.
It's what they
Break
want.
the
It's a
curse.
35.
Break the
No,
curse.
they want
really-
It cannot
Then
get
at least you
worse.
can confirm your suspicion.
It cannot get
I know,
worse
but
than
you
a
can confirm
35.
Fine.
And you can break the curse.
Amazing.
Nerd.
We're going to re-roll
Every time
in
I
the
get to
Tower
Watch
of
this.
Doom.
No, because
Watch this now be so high.
No, because...
Can I say something? I also have a 35.
Whoa! And he believes in the Tower of Doom.
Yeah.
35 from Ben Starr. Let's go to Holly Benet now.
130.
Whoa!
I got the 0. I got the double zeros.
You got 0, 0, and a 0.
Zero.
That's
Nice.
amazing. Douglas Cockle.
Wow. Now, Ben got me these really cool Witcher dice.
Geralt of Rivia.
Yeah,
Witcher
Geralt
dice.
of River. Geralt of
Get
River.
river.
Geralt
Geralt of River.
I don't know the guy's name.
She's not for Germany. He got me these really cool Geralt.
Geralt of River. You're right the first time.
Anyways, I thought maybe these might break me out of my slump because I've been
Yep.
in the 70s
You have
to,
been in the
70s to high 90s, no, low 90s for months and
Yeah.
months and months, and I rolled an 88.
Oh, you're still slap bang in the middle.
Consistency is good, though.
Yeah.
Grouping, like
grouping.
I always say, grouping.
Ping.
Alex Jordan.
105.
We
Oh,
like that.
Solid.
Alex
We
Jordan.
broke the 100. We
Natural
like that.
6. 105.
And shall we discover whether
Let's all add it up together as we
your
go.
friend and
She
mine,
broken the curse?
Aoife Wilson?
Start at the
No,
low
no, no.
end.
Okay, we're gonna do live adding up.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, so which end should I start at?
let's start low and then go big.
I got a 4 on the D4.
4,
I got a 4 on the D6.
8,
I got a 6 on the D8.
14,
And then on the D10, I got 5.
19.
90. 90 on the D100.
No.
What?
So you got
No, so
yeah.
but
Fine,
you're
fine,
19,
fine.
and
so
then you get
19
the D12.
plus another 90,
Yeah.
right, which is 109,
Then I got 12.
which is
On the D12.
121,
Then I got 19.
which is 140.
Yeah, whatever.
Do you have anything you'd
Whatever.
like to say to the dice tower?
All you've done is prove them right, and this is your
Little shit.
Kiss it.
No, I won't.
Would you like to say something to Mark?
Would
you like to say something to Mark?
Do it in the
Kiss and
fucking
makeup.
episode.
Don't make
Do it in the
don't make a kiss a
episode.
thing.
Kiss and makeup.
Oh, you mustn't make anyone kiss a thing.
He said no.
Would you like to say
Tower's
anything to
gaslighting
Mark
you.
from Crafted Campaigns, Aoife Wilson?
I would never take it out of Mark. I've always been very clear. This and Mark.
That's what you said off camera.
You said some mad stuff.
thing
on
you
camera.
don't said off camera.
You were like, give me
Oh.
his postal address. Give me his postal address.
Yeah.
This is Mark's baby, and you hate it. It's gaslighting you.
I still hate it. I
That
still hate
is
that thing.
gaslighting.
Yeah.
It's basically going, she's crazy.
Hey,
I'm such a...
yeah,
She's crazy. Look, I gave you
listen,
140.
listen,
When it's
Love
just the two
bombing.
of us, we're great. It's everything else gets in the way. Don't be like that. Be like a normal dice tray. Thank you ever so much for joining us for this episode of Action Surge. We will see you again soon for more adventures in the world of Reliquia, and then we'll say D&D, baby. D&D, baby!